Something that we are passionate about at a spice company are the way that spices can be used to enhance and layer flavors. Marinating is a great tool to use if you want to make a dish more flavorful and tasty without a lot of effort. These are some of the most common questions we get from our customers that are related to marinades.
What types of food can you marinate?
The most obvious food we think of marinating are different kinds of meat, but you can also marinate tofu, vegetables, and fruit as well. Marinating will help add flavor and introduce extra moisture to your food, so it's important not to over-marinate your ingredients so they aren't mushy or grainy.
How long should I marinate my food?
How long you choose to marinate your food will depend on two elements: how long you have and how large your food is. The good news is that most data seems to support whether you have 30 minutes or 8 hours, a marinade will not penetrate much more than 1/8 of an inch. If you're the kind of person who likes to get dinner going the second you walk in the door, marinating your food before you leave for work in the morning is a definite time saver. For larger meat, such as a whole turkey or a pork shoulder, you might need to budget more time simply for the sake of rotating your food to make sure each side is exposed to the marinade.
Why does marinating make meat tender?
Marinating adds flavor and helps develop a great crust, but you should not count on marinating for tenderizing a tough piece of meat. Marinades typically contain some sort of enzyme or acid that helps break down the surface of the food, but isn't meant to penetrate the whole way through. Marinating isn't going to make your meat more tender. Instead, if you allow your food to sit in a marinade for several days, you actually run the risk of either turning the food into mush or causing it to get chewy and stringy rather than juicy.
What is the difference between wet brine and marinade?
A wet brine consists mainly of salt and some sort of liquid and doesn't call for oil or fat. Wet brining only really works on meat as it uses salt to help force muscle tissue to retain moisture, where marinating is more focused on getting food to retain the flavor of the marinade on the surface of the food.
How do I make marinade at home?
A marinade is usually 1 part acid to 3 parts oil, and then all the seasoning and spices you want. If you're cooking something on the grill, consider how long and how hot you'll be grilling to determine what kind of oil you would like to use. While flavorful, avoid oils with a low smoke point, like sesame, which will taste bitter if cooked too long and lose their flavor. Vegetable oil is a great option that is neutral tasting and has a very high smoke point. Olive oil has a slightly lower smoke point than vegetable oil, but if you're watching your grill and don't let it burn, it can fragrance your dish. The acids you use in your marinade will help create a base of flavor, and you can experiment using all sorts of ingredients. One of the most common and easy to find ingredients in marinade are citrus juices. Lemons, limes, and oranges are all great options, or you could use these in combination with other acidic ingredients like red wine, vinegar, or soy sauce. Certain spices work better with high heat than other ones, so consider the flavor and texture of your herbs so you're not using something that might easily scorch, like rosemary. Use a blend or rub as a great option because they mix easily with the rest of the marinade, which builds a better crust. When searing food on the grill or stovetop, a good crust will add texture to your food. If you like to salt your food frequently as you are cooking, it might be a good idea to have less salt in your marinade so you can control how much sodium you're using. Pre-marinated meat you find at the supermarket often relies heavily on salt to tenderize the meat, so it's difficult to detect the real flavor of the meat. If you are concerned about sodium, a great option is to season with one of our salt-free blends. Some of our favorites that make great marinades are harissa spice, pollo asado, and mojo seasoning. Coincidentally, all these blends contain different zests, which will help complement whatever acid you decide to use. Another way to build a great crust is to add sweeteners to your marinade. Sweeteners caramelize the outside, but they can also cause food to burn a little easier, especially if you're marinating something that already has a lot of natural sugars, such as fruit like peaches or plums. A lot of most popular seasonings actually have sweeteners blended in with them. Some common ones are granulated molasses, granulated honey, and demerara sugar. In addition to how they react when you're cooking, these are great ingredients to help balance out heat or spiciness in your marinade.
What should I do with my marinade when I'm done with it?
When you are ready to cook your food, remove it from the bowl or bag you marinated it in, then allow it to come to room temperature. We want to highlight the marinade, so don't rinse it off. Just pat off all the excess you can to help get that sear we've been talking about. If your marinade has been used for raw meat, you should discard it unless you plan on cooking it through completely so you don't cross-contaminate your dish. With tofu or vegetables, this isn't a problem, and you can decide to toss your food in your marinade before serving it.